welcome to New Comic Book News, a weekly show all about comics, from FOCs to exciting announcements to indies to keep your eyes on and everything in between. My name is Michael Balonis and I'll be your newscaster for the week. So up first we have the upcoming FOCs, and with this first section of FOCs, I like to do a quick rundown of the ones that are today, March 30th, 2026. Now we're going to try to speed through these ones because there are a lot to get through for next week, but for now we have, coming out of DC, Absolute Wonder Woman number 19, Superman number 37, Batman / Wonder Woman Truth number 1, and Harley and Ivy number 5. From DC's Vertigo line, we have The Peril of Brutal Dark number 3. And then coming out of Marvel, we have just the Ultimate issue number 23. Boom Studios has Something is Killing the Children number 47. But then Image, oh boy, okay. Image has Exquisite Corpses number 12, Monstrous issue number 61, Rogue Sun issue number 34, Red Roots number 1, In Your Skin number 1, and Headlopper number 1. Alright, did we make it through that? Are you still with me? Okay, good. Now remember, those FOCs are for today, which means today's your last chance to get these ordered. So pause the video, go call your local comic book store, make sure you get the ones you want ordered, then come back and hit play, because now we're going to move on to next week, April 6, 2026. First out of DC, we have Zatanna, issue number 1, a brand new start for the character. And then DC also has Swamp Thing 1989, issue number 1, which features a series of lost issues from a controversial run of Swamp Thing that was cancelled and never released. So you definitely want to pick this up. Now this time around, Marvel has a lot to get through, so buckle up. They have the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 28, which is a brand new arc coming out of the fallout of the Death Spiral event. Then Daredevil number 2 is the second issue in the latest relaunch of Daredevil, which is an always consistent title, so I'm excited to see where this takes us. And listen, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a sucker for anything Spidey related, so of course I'm gonna mention all new Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider number 10, which is a title that puts Matthew Rosenberg to shame, but that's okay because Stephanie Phillips is a phenomenal writer. And then the Ultimate Universe isn't dead yet, and we're continuing the story with Ultimate Impact Reborn issue number 1. Moving into Image Comics now, we have the Department of Truth issue number 37, and Feral issue number 22, which you will definitely want to grab. They just started a brand new arc in this rabies-infested Disney-esque horror story, which I will be talking about later in the video, so stick around for that. Then we've got White Sky issue number 3, another horror apocalypse story in the vein of Last of Us, with a lot of, as of yet, untapped potential. Then Rick Remender continues his gritty, emotional fantasy epic with The Sacrificers issue number 21, which recently reached a turning point, so I'm ready to see how the story handles itself moving forward. Then we've got a few titles coming out of a few different studios, starting with Is Ted Okay? The trippy, unsettling dystopian story has its issue 3 coming out of Mad Cave Studios, and also out of Mad Cave is Exploit issue number 2, the comic all about the fall of truth and rise of AI, and a thriller all about journalism. Boom Studios has Neighborhood Watch 2, Dark Horse has Hidden Springs issue number 1, which I am super excited about, and last but not least, Invader Comics has The Devil in the Herd number 1, a supernatural western horror with incredibly unsettling art. And that wraps up the FOCs that I think you should keep your eyes on, but if you think I missed anything big, please let me know. Otherwise, let's move on into the news. One of the biggest things that happened in comics in years has been the Absolute line, and we just got some pretty big news from Scott Snyder. Scott Snyder has gone on record stating that there is no end in sight for the Absolute universe, and he will even be writing up to at least issue 50 of Absolute Batman. And now we've got a couple of previews as Image Comics has unveiled the first look at the interior pages of their upcoming Headloppers issue number 1, and it looks all sorts of crazy fun. Also coming out of Image, they gave us the first look at Red Roots, the supernatural horror story about a killer and a high school teacher being bound by some unknown force. And we have another preview coming out of Image Comics. This one is for In Your Skin, which is a disturbing, intimate body horror of a comic coming from who's usually known as a letterer, Bittaker. This will be Bittaker's writing debut, and it's going to feature art from Sam, who is also the artist for the horror comic Crocodile Black. In Your Skin looks super unsettling, and the interior art for this looks absolutely gorgeous, so I am so excited to get my hands on this. Now, we will not be having an official Kickstarter corner this week, but I do want to give a shout out to Sussex Chapters 3 and 4 and Chessmen issue number 1. Both of their Kickstarters got successfully funded, so congratulations to them, and I can't wait to read those comics. And with that out of the way, we can move on into my favorite comics from last week. Before we get into the top 3, Dimensional Rivals had another fun dimension-hopping entry with issue number 3, giving us more seeds to the mystery being sown. White Sky issue 2 didn't give us much more than issue number 1 did, but it was still a gorgeous book with some really tense pacing, and I am still itching for more to be unveiled in its story. Superman issue number 36 was a surprisingly fun start to a new arc, and made me fall in love with a character I've never really had an interest in before, so I guess I'm gonna go back and read some Superboy Prime stuff. I don't know. And Absolute Wonder Woman continues to be my favorite of the Absolute Universe. I mean, Kelly Thompson, Hayden Sherman, Jordi Belair, and Becca Carey are an absolute powerhouse of a creative force. But what were my top 3 favorite comics from last week? The Peril Brutal Dark issue number 2 blew me away. Issue number 1 was already a really fun setup, introducing us to the world, the mystery, and most importantly, Ezra Kane. But issue number 2 took it a step further, pulling us deeper into the mystery and showed us just how far Jacob's art is going to go. There's this dream flashback sequence that was just absolutely stunning and super indicative of what's to come in this Indiana Jones-inspired mystery. It might just be my favorite of the recent Vertigo titles, and I am really excited to see where issue number 3 takes us. Is Ted Okay? Issue number 2 knocked it out of the park in every way. The first issue expertly set up so many tiny details of the world while telling an incredibly intimate story focused on 2 characters, but this second issue dialed everything up to 11. We got so much more of the world building, which in turn elevated the tension and mystery, and despite so many questions getting seemingly answered at once, it still feels like there's so much left to uncover. But my number 1 favorite of last week was easily Feral issue number 21. This is the start of a brand new arc in the rabies-infested nightmare that is this story, and what a start it is. A silent issue that brings both the story and art to a whole new level. It was tense and heart-pounding, it revealed more about what's going on in the wider world, and it had one hell of a final page reveal that I will not spoil. If you have not been reading Feral, I promise now is the time with this new arc starting up, so get this next issue coming out, jump on board with this new arc, then go back and catch yourself up on what's been happening before. I think one of the best things I can say about Feral is despite the strong marketable premise, like, oh, it's Walking Dead, but in a Disney cartoon. Despite that, it is far from just a marketing gimmick. It is such a strong story, so emotional, so horrific. Out of all the horror titles I read, this is easily one of the most tense stories I've ever experienced. But that brings us to the end of this week's new comic book news. What were your favorite comics from last week, and what books are you most looking forward to? Let me know, and as always, my name is Michael Balonis, and I will see you guys next week.